The highway at night is a lonely place, where shadows stretch far beyond the reach of your headlights and silence presses in like a living thing. Every trucker knows the stories, whispers of things that lurk in the darkness, waiting for the unsuspecting. I thought they were just that, stories. Until the night I broke down on an empty road and discovered that some nightmares are real, and they hunger for more than just fear. I never liked driving at night, but a trucker's gotta do what a trucker's gotta do. The pay's better and the roads are quieter, so it's supposed to be less stressful. That's what they all say. Less traffic, more peace. But the silence, it's deafening. The darkness, it's a different beast. I was hauling a load of steel from Detroit to some small town in Ohio I'd never even heard of. Just another night run, routine, or so I thought. It was one of those nights when the sky seemed darker than usual. No moon, just thick clouds overhead blotting out the stars. Perfect for setting a man on edge. I'd been on the road for a few hours, and fatigue was creeping up on me like a slow tide. The highway stretched on, empty and lifeless, illuminated only by my headlights and the occasional road sign. The hum of the engine was steady, comforting in a way. But something about the night felt off. I tried to shake it off, chalking it up to too many hours behind the wheel. I clicked the radio on, hoping for some music or a late-night talk show to keep me company. Static. I switched through the stations, but all I got was more static, like the airwaves were dead out here. That didn't make sense. I should have been able to pick up something, even out in the boonies. Then, out of nowhere, the engine let out a low growl. Not a usual sound, more like a cough, deep and throaty, like it was straining. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and glanced at the dashboard. Nothing abnormal. Oil pressure fine. Temperature fine. Still, the engine stuttered again. A shiver crawled up my spine. Great, just what I needed. A breakdown in the middle of nowhere in the dead of night. The next sign said there was a rest stop 5 miles ahead. I figured I'd pull in, check under the hood, maybe grab a cup of coffee. If the truck was going to give me problems, I wanted it sorted before I got any deeper into the night. The road seemed to stretch on forever. My headlights cut through the dark, but there was nothing. No cars, no animals, not even a bird flying overhead. The only sound was the wind hitting the truck and that faint growl from the engine every now and then. Finally, I saw the lights of the rest stop up ahead. Relieved, I slowed down, pulling off the highway and into the parking lot. There were only a couple of other trucks parked, both dark and silent. The gas station's fluorescent lights buzzed faintly, casting a sickly yellow glow over everything. I shut off the engine and stepped out. The cold night air hit me like a slap. I zipped up my jacket and glanced around. The station looked run down, like it hadn't seen a renovation in decades. A sign flickered above the door, half the letters burned out. Open 24 hours. It seemed more like a warning than an invitation. I grabbed my flashlight from the glove compartment and popped the hood. The engine steamed a little, but nothing unusual. No leaks, no loose belts. Still, something didn't feel right. That nagging sensation was back, like I was being watched. I turned, scanning the lot. Nothing. Just those dead trucks and the empty highway beyond. But the hairs on the back of my neck stood up anyway. As I closed the hood, I heard it. A soft scraping sound, like nails on metal. I froze, flashlight trembling in my hand. It was coming from the other side of the truck. Slowly, I walked around, the beam of light flickering with each step. My heart pounded in my chest as I reached the back of the trailer. Nothing. Just the dull gleam of the truck under the buzzing lights. Then, a voice. Need some help? I nearly jumped out of my skin. Whipping the flashlight around, I saw him. An old man standing by the gas pumps, hands in the pockets of a ragged coat. I hadn't heard him approach, hadn't seen him at all until he spoke. His face was lined with age, deep wrinkles etched into his skin like cracks in dried earth. "Nah, I'm good," I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just checking something." He didn't move, just stood there, staring. His eyes glinted in the dim light, dark and hollow, like two black holes. Something about him made my skin crawl. "Better be careful," he said, voice raspy. "Strange things happen out on these roads at night." I swallowed hard, not sure how to respond. The air between us felt heavy, oppressive. I could feel the weight of his gaze, like he was sizing me up for something. His words hung in the air, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't just making idle conversation. "Yeah, thanks for the tip," I muttered, turning back toward the truck, desperate to get away from him. As I reached for the door, I glanced over my shoulder. He was gone, just like that. I stared at the empty space where he had stood, heart racing. No way he could have just disappeared like that. The lot was wide open. He couldn't have gone anywhere without me hearing. But there was nothing, no sign of him. I jumped into the cab, slamming the door behind me. I locked it, even though I knew it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference if that old man wanted to come back. My hands were shaking as I turned the key. The engine roared to life, but the feeling of unease only grew. I needed to get out of there. Pulling out of the rest stop, I checked my mirrors. The lot was empty, just like before. But that didn't comfort me. Something was wrong out here. I could feel it deep in my bones. The highway was darker now, like the night had deepened in the short time I'd stopped. The road felt endless, stretching out in front of me like a black ribbon cutting through nothingness. I turned the radio on again. More static. Then, the engine sputtered. This time, it wasn't a warning cough, it died completely. The headlights flickered once, twice, and then the truck rolled to a dead stop in the middle of the highway. "No, no, no," I muttered, hitting the steering wheel. "Come on, don't do this." I tried the ignition. Nothing. The dashboard lights were out. The truck was completely dead. Panic started to set in. I was miles from anywhere, stranded in the dark. And I wasn't alone. I could feel it, something watching me, waiting. I grabbed my flashlight and opened the door. The night was colder now, the wind biting at my skin as I stepped out. The silence was deafening, like the whole world had gone mute. I walked around to the front of the truck, shining the light on the engine, though I already knew it wouldn't help. Then I heard it again, that same scraping sound from earlier, but this time it was closer, much closer. I turned slowly, flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam caught something, a shadow just at the edge of the light. It moved, slipping into the darkness before I could get a good look. My heart pounded in my chest, the blood roaring in my ears. I backed up toward the cab, but before I could reach it, the scraping came again, louder, sharper. I swung the flashlight around frantically, trying to find the source. The beam flickered, the light dimming, and then I saw it. A figure. Tall, thin, its limbs impossibly long. It stood just outside the light, its head cocked to one side like it was studying me. I couldn't see its face, just a dark void where its eyes should have been. My breath caught in my throat as it took a step toward me, its movements slow, deliberate. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight. It hit the pavement with a clatter, spinning wildly before going out completely. Darkness swallowed me whole. I ran. I didn't know where I was going, just away from that thing, whatever it was. My legs burned, my lungs screaming for air, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. The sound of footsteps followed me, slow and steady, like it was in no hurry. It didn't need to be. It knew I couldn't escape. I don't remember how long I ran, minutes, hours. It felt like an eternity. Eventually, I tripped, falling hard onto the cold asphalt. Pain shot through my leg, but I forced myself up, limping as fast as I could. Then the footsteps stopped. I turned, heart hammering in my chest. The road behind me was empty, but I knew it wasn't over. It never would be. That night changed me. I don't drive at night anymore.